It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and 10. Welcome into the border war for April the 11th. This is BG. I'm here with TanMan. We are coming at you live on the Spreaker app today. We have a lot in store for you today. We've got NBA news, we've got Major League Baseball news, and then at the end of segment 2, we're going to do a new segment called Thumbs Up or Thumbs Down, where we will give you some interesting scenarios that could kind of go either way, and TanMan and I will talk about which way we think we're leaning on those things. Remember that we are on Twitter at the Border War. I am on Twitter at BG_Border War, and TanMan is at TanMan3264. Our email is carolinaborderwar@gmail.com. You can like and download us through the Spreaker app. We can also be found on YouTube and SoundCloud, and be sure to like and share the Border War podcast on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter. TanMan, it was a big week in sport. Lots of sports going on. Not a lot going on in the NFL right now, but
no, it's kind of a dead period.
Dead period before the draft really gets going. But catch us up on the week in sport.
Well, we've mentioned it several times the last few weeks. The Masters has come and gone. Patrick Reed wins the green jacket this year. He finishes at 15 under. He holds off a hard-charging Ricky Fowler, who shot 12 under for the weekend, and Jordan Spieth, who shot an 8 under 64 on Sunday. Reed's partner, the one I was pulling for, Rory McIlroy, shoots a 74 in that last group. He finishes at 9 under. BG's pick for the Masters, Justin Rose, finishes at 6 under, and my pick, Justin Thomas, at 4 under. Both in the top 20, so some solid picks from the two of us for once.
Yeah.
Phil finishes at 2 over, Tiger at 1 over. The Charlotte Hornets have closed out the year. They finished out winning 2 of 3. They finished at 36 and 46. We'll get into some more Hornets talk in a few minutes. But the FBI has come down on college basketball yet again. The list of schools now officially named has grown as Kansas and NC State have been tossed in the fray. Players being reported as being involved are, of course, Dennis Smith Jr., no surprise, from NC State, and Kansas's Silvio De Sousa and Josh Jackson. In Clemson news, Brad Brownell wins a Coach of the Year award. SI.com names him their Coach of the Year. Asia Wilson is the Women's Player of the Year, and of course Villanova's Jalen Brunson sweeps through the Player of the Year awards on the men's side. In baseball action, North Carolina takes 2 out of 3 at Miami. They lost the third game. It was called after 5 innings, but the Tar Heels have won 8 straight full-length baseball games. They sit at 22-11, 10-5 in the conference. They are tied with Duke for first in the Coastal Division. The Tigers, they take 2 of 3 in South Bend against Notre Dame. They drop a midweek game against Georgia. They sit at 25-8. They are 10-5, and they are a game back of NC State for first place in the Atlantic. BG's Gamecocks, they dropped 2 of 3 on the road at Kentucky. They sit at 19-14, 5-7 in the SEC. They're currently in a 3-way tie for last in the East. The road only going to get tougher for the Gamecocks. Of course, we will get into that as well. And the Braves, they win their first 3 series of the year. They are currently playing the Nationals. They dropped the first 2 in that series, and I think at last check it is tied 3-3 in the top of the 12th. So hopefully the Braves can salvage one up in the nation's capital against the Nats this week. Yeah, and that's your weekend sport.
It would take a little bit of the air out of the sails to get swept by one of the 2 teams in that division that actually matters. But anyway, yep. So we'll keep you up to date on that. I'll keep checking my phone here, and if the game wraps up anytime during the show, we'll let you know. Okay, so let's delve into the National Basketball Association. Obviously, is tonight everybody's last regular season game?
Okay, yes, it's over tonight.
And a lot of these games actually matter. For there to be 82 games in the regular season, it's crazy how many of these seeding matchups come down to just one more game. Very few of the seeds are are actually wrapped up already. Let's see if I can. You jump in here anytime you want.
I was going to say, if you're going to break down playoff scenarios, good luck, buddy.
And I am taking this from a compilation of several articles online, ESPN, Bleacher Report. When we take stuff from other people, we like to give them credit. So none of this material is anything I came up with. I'm sort of just writing up things in summary of what I saw. And you almost need an Excel spreadsheet to figure this out. But all right, so Toronto and Boston in the East are the 1 and 2 seeds. That's done.
Yeah, I think that's
done. And Indiana is locked in at the 5.
They're locked in at 5.
All the other spots in the East are up for grabs. All right, so in the West, and we'll get more in depth here, but in the West, you've got Houston and Golden State at 1 and 2. And then you've got 7 teams jockeying for 6 positions.
Yeah.
And tonight, you have 3 head-to-head matchups between those teams. Okay, so we'll get into that. So back into the East. So you've got the Raptors, you've got the Celtics, and then you've got basically the 76ers and the Cavaliers vying for that 3rd seed.
Yeah.
Now, according to you, and you've been talking about the Cavs all year, do they care, or do they really want the 3 seed here?
I think in general they don't care, because I don't believe that Toronto scares them at all. So if they wind up 4,
do the Celtics scare them anymore?
That's what I was going to say. I don't think the Celtics scare them anymore. I don't think Toronto scares them at all. No, I would say no. They wouldn't care. Maybe avoiding that first round matchup with Indiana in that 4-5 might be something they would try. But I as a general thought, no, I don't think that they really care whether they're 3 or 4.
All right. Now, obviously, the 76ers beat them Friday in a head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. And right now, they're 1 game in front. So, I guess it's one of those situations where Cleveland would... The 76ers win tonight, it's done.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the tiebreak is between the 2 of them, though. I think
that's a good question.
I think Cleveland would get the tiebreaker because they would be a division champion. The 76ers are not a division champion.
The rare time when a division matters.
Yeah. I want to say Cleveland gets a tiebreaker because they would be division champs.
All right, so Philadelphia playing the Bucks. Now, Philadelphia is on a 15-game win streak.
You know, the last time Philadelphia had a win streak, it wasn't 15, but I think it was like 13. The last time they had a 13-game win streak?
I'm going to say AI was playing.
1983. What happened in 1983? They won their last NBA title.
No, I was going to say NC State won the national title. Is that not what you meant?
No.
Oh, okay.
But, of course, that'd probably be the last time they win a national title for many, many years.
Who won the Super Bowl that year?
1983?
Can't remember.
I don't know.
I think it was the Redskins.
Okay, congratulations. You won 1 since then.
We've won 2 since then.
Okay. Whatever. I wasn't even born then. What do I care? You're old. You're an old man. Let's keep it moving.
You will be an old man the next time the Cowboys win a Super Bowl.
Probably so. I feel like an old man now.
You look older than me. Everybody says it. Well, lots of people are saying that.
Well, lots of people say lots of things, but most of them are liars.
So, the 76ers on a 15-game win streak, but they're playing a Bucks team tonight that has a reason to try to win this game because the Bucks, are sitting in a 3-way battle at the bottom of the East playoff hunt with the Heat and Washington. Okay, so not a tie, but lots. I'm not going to get into all that because, let's be honest, the bottom 3 seed, they don't really matter. I mean, you made the playoffs. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. So, if the Sixers beat the Bucks, then they are the outright 3 seed. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's done. But a loss would have to be combined with a Cleveland win over the Knicks, would drop them to the 4 seed. Since Cleveland won the Central Division Championship, that would push them ahead, which is just what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those 4 seeds are probably the 4 that matter. So, of all the games going on in the East tonight, keep an eye on the 76ers and the Bucks. and the Knicks and you have to feel like Cleveland's probably going to win that game.
The Knicks at the Cavs, yeah.
And Cleveland's going to be motivated to play. They're going to play everybody. They're going
to. One thing I wonder is if some of these teams aren't going to try to position themselves to finish 7th and draw Boston in the first round, knowing how shorthanded Boston is right now. I think Milwaukee's in that bunch. I think Miami's in that bunch. I think Washington's in that bunch.
Can you remember another team drawing a 2 seed in the playoffs like this that you think just has 0 chance? They have no chance.
Man, it's going to be tough. Really, it's going to be tough. I think either way, if Milwaukee or Washington say they wind up with that 7 seed, I would take them in a series over Boston without Kyrie.
Oh yeah, I agree. Which is crazy.
Which is nuts.
But there you are.
Yep.
So now, if the Sixers and the Cavs both lose tonight, the Sixers will stay the 3rd seed and the Cavs will be the 4th seed. Okay, and whoever's the 4th seed, they're playing your Pacers.
Yep, they'll play the Pacers.
And like you said, I don't know that that's a draw I would want. I mean,
maybe. I don't think that they could beat Cleveland in a series. LeBron owns. I mean, let's face it. LeBron owns.
But it's not
Indiana
just about what I'm saying though. Is it's not just about winning it. You want to sweep them. That's what you want.
Yeah, I think if Cleveland wound up playing Indiana, it wouldn't surprise me if they swept them. I mean, he does. LeBron owns the Pacers in the playoffs.
All right, so getting into the seeds that don't matter as much. So on Tuesday, Washington beat Boston. Okay, so that leaves the Bucks, the Heat, and the Wizards separated by only 1 game for the number 6 seed. I'm not sure how much that matters, but it's there.
Well, I think it matters a lot because, like I said, not necessarily 6, but winding up drawing who places, who finishes 7th is a big deal because 7th gets Boston.
And you feel like that 7 seed is kind of a glowing prize now. And when's the last time you thought that?
Yeah, who wanted to finish 7th?
All right, so the Bucks are visiting the Sixers, like we've already said. Miami will be hosting Toronto. That's not a good draw. But then again,
Toronto has got nothing
to play for.
Right.
Nothing to play for. And Washington heads to play the mighty Orlando Magic.
Something no one has said in many, many years.
But I tell you, a home team with no pressure whatsoever and nothing to play for but pride, sometimes that doesn't work out well. Well, I mean, we'll see. So given the different stature of each of these opponents, that 6 seed could end up anywhere.
Right.
Any of those teams could get it. So if all 3 of the teams win, meaning the Bucks, the Heat, or the Wizards, if all 3 of them win, then the Bucks get the 6th seed, and the Heat, and then the Wizards last.
Okay.
But if the Bucks lose and the other 2 teams win, then the Bucks would drop from the 6th seed to the 8th seed, and then the other 2 teams would stay in that same order but above them. Does that clear it all up?
Yeah. No. No. In the West, I'm going to make the West much, much simpler.
I have lots of notes, though.
Listen, you have just blown my mind with all of that. I'm going to make this much simpler. In the West, 1 is a lock, 2 is a lock. That's Houston and Golden State, okay? The Pelicans can finish 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. The Spurs can be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. The Thunder can be 4th, 6th, or 8th. Denver can be 6th or 7th. Minnesota can be 6th, 7th, or 8th. Utah can be 3rd, 4th, 5th, no lower than 5th. And Portland can be 3rd, 4th, or 5th, no lower than 5th. And one of Minnesota and Denver is going to be sitting at the house just like the Hornets are because they are playing what amounts to a play-in game tonight. Much, much simpler.
But you don't want me to go through the West?
Much simpler than whatever it was you just did.
It was simple, but it was also worthless. You basically said any team could be any seed.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, but people don't know how it could happen.
Well, then they need to get on Google and do some research. We're in a time crunch.
Let me, TanMan.
What?
Turn the mic off for a second. If people start getting on Google and finding their own information, they won't need us at all.
Well, but they also won't need local radio guy either.
So you're fine taking us out as long as we take them down with
that's
us.
cool too. All right, we good?
Yeah.
All right.
So what should we talk about now?
All right.
Since you don't want me to talk about basketball.
Well, we'll talk about basketball.
But you don't want me to run through the scenario. I did a lot of work here.
I see that, and kind of made my head hurt. I'm not going to lie to you.
So
with all those scenarios, BG.
But you do. You're right. You have 6
basically
teams
the West
placed
is wide
3rd
open.
through 9th.
Right.
And the 9th seed not being a seed.
Right.
But 6 of those teams are playing each other.
Yeah, I mean the West.
Tonight.
When we say the West is wide open, I mean literally anybody in the West other than Houston and Golden State can be almost anywhere in the playoffs. So it's impossible to try and break down potential matchups or anything like that.
We can nail down the 3 seed real easily. Okay, so the Jazz go up against Portland. Whoever wins at the 3, that's the 3 seed. That's it.
Okay.
There's no other scenario there. Okay. Portland can't do worse than 5th. Even if they lose that game, 5th is as far as they can drop.
Okay.
All right.
I say it says Utah can't be worse than 5th either.
And the Pelicans, according to the sources I read, are most likely going to be the 5th seed if they can knock off the Spurs at the Smoothie King Center tonight. How does that become your name?
What?
The Smoothie King Center?
I guess somebody Smoothie King wrote a big enough check, I guess.
It's terrible, man. I don't want to play in the Smoothie King Center. Unless he was a really good point guard.
Well,
like that,
Say, look, if you owned a business, it was Joe's Toilet Shop, and you wrote a check big enough, you could have the Joe's Toilet Shop arena.
The only way the Pelicans don't finish 5th with a victory is if Oklahoma City and Portland both win, because then the Thunder would move up into the 4th seed. Now, the Spurs are interesting.
Okay.
They could be all over the place. But they shouldn't drop further than a 7 seed. But there is a scenario where Denver and Oklahoma City both win and relegate them to the number 8 seed. Now imagine that, the San Antonio Spurs in the 8th spot.
That's something you never thought you'd hear.
Well, I mean, I guess you thought you would hear it eventually. But it's one of those things where you never thought it would be this year.
Well, it's one of those things where you knew it was going to come eventually, that the run was going to end sometime, but you never really thought it would end. It felt like watching it was just going to go on forever.
Now, the team that's in a nice position right now going into the night is the Thunder, because they don't play anybody. They play Memphis. And all of their competition squares off against each other. So they have what should be an easy win, and they get to just hold serve. Now, what the Thunder want is for Portland to win tonight. So they are massive Damian Lillard fans tonight as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because they jump to the 4 seed if they can beat the Grizzlies and the Blazers win. But if Oklahoma City loses to Memphis, and what do you think the chances of that happening? Because they need to win it.
Very little.
They need to win it. Get this. If they lose to Memphis tonight, they drop from the 4 seed to the 8 seed. Done deal, automatic. That is how crazy the West is right now. Because everybody's got the same record, so you got all these, you got 3-stage tiebreakers going back that we can't explain to you.
So what is it? 4 through 8 is separated by like a game and a half or something like that, or 2 games.
2 teams
it's almost
that
nothing.
Unfortunately are sort of, Denver and Minnesota are fighting between the 6th and the 7th seed, but they could end up as low as 8th. But the Timberwolves, let's face it, if the Timberwolves were in the East, they'd be in a different situation. But there's just too much talent in the West, as young as that team is, even with Michael Jordan's love child. I was hoping the Timberwolves would really come on strong after the All-Star break. They're a good team. They're not going to get worse. I mean, this is a team that's going to be around for 2 or 3 more years.
They kind of caught a raw break when Jimmy Butler went down.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I think they were a team that was on their way to being well in the playoffs. And when Jimmy Butler got hurt, he was the guy that they brought in, the experienced guy. The guy who'd been there, who'd played playoff series, won playoff series. He was going to show these guys how to go about doing that. And just, they just kind of hit the skids for a little bit.
Well, right now they're in a battle to see whether they get to play Golden State or Houston in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, talk about a pride.
Now, normally, TanMan, I don't feel like I bring a lot to the basketball portion of the show, but I feel like I did my job today.
Well, you did something.
I mean,
I need some Advil.
But I'm a person who needs positive feedback, and you're just
good job.
No, that's patronizing
job,
at this point.
No. Oh man.
But it is that complicated.
It really is. It is,
especially in the
West. It's a mess.
But
it's a mess.
You know who the real winner in all this is? It's Adam Silver, man. It's great. I'm going to go home and watch the NBA tonight.
Well,
a lot of times on the last night of the season, your ratings probably aren't great.
Well, I come to you back in October before the season starts, and I tell you, BG, I'll give you $40 or $20 if you sit down tonight on April the 11th and watch the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Are you taking it?
Probably not. And I'm not sure that's one I'm going to watch tonight either, just because, like I said, all they're really fighting for is who gets to beat up on us in the first round.
Well,
because they're both going to get drugged.
Well,
but higher up, you're talking about the Thunder. Like that game just by itself.
Yeah.
Winning you're a 4 seed, losing you're an 8 seed. That's drama. That's drama.
It is that.
Who would like to see a Houston, Oklahoma City 7-round matchup in the first round?
Well, what I was going to say is the one thing that I really wanted to see can happen, and that's for Oklahoma City to finish 7th, so that Russell Westbrook could square off with KD in the first round.
Yeah, there's no way they can get the 7 seed.
No.
But I tell you what, I bet you James Harden is putting sugar in the gas tank of the Memphis Grizzlies bus tonight, because Lord, if you're the Rockets, as great of a season as you have, you don't want Oklahoma City in the first round. Man, nobody wants that.
No, and that brings to some other things. You watch the NBA playoffs, and you can make the argument that the first round really doesn't matter because you never
rarely does.
You hardly ever see 8 seeds beat ones. I think it's happened one time in the last 20 years or so.
We complain about the 5-game series in Major League Baseball. You don't like that either, right? The first round. I wish it were 7. But in the NBA, sometimes it feels like it would be kind of fun for it to be a shorter series.
Well, I think if it were a shorter series, you have more opportunity to see maybe somebody gets hot for a couple of days and knocks off Houston.
It's very difficult not to go chalk in a 7-game series.
One of the interesting things you want to talk about Oklahoma City, which one of these Oklahoma City teams show up?
That's exactly the question.
When Russell Westbrook and Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, kind of to a lesser extent this year, but when those guys are really on, and it's just come across, the Braves win 5-3.
So they salvage one.
They did salvage one. But when those guys are all three kind of bought in and doing their job, that's a really, really good team. That's a team capable of holding their own against Houston or even Golden State.
Oh, sure.
But somehow Russell Westbrook has evolved back into this triple-double Russ like he was last year. I think he needs, 16 rebounds tonight to average a triple-double for a second straight season, and nobody's even talking about it hardly. But somehow he's fallen back into triple-double Russ, and it's like he's not getting help from the rest of his guys.
Right. Well, and some of that people would the flip side of that is that he can turn into a very selfish player.
Well, he's got the reputation of being a little difficult to play with sometimes.
Right.
And
I think that's just because he is that good. It's a burden. Well, it's like our attitude towards the local guys. It's difficult to be really good at your job and see other people struggling to try to do it also.
Well, he's got that personality that I kind of have sometimes, where if you're doing something in a group of people and everybody's just, you just get to the point where you're like, just forget it. Just give it to me. I'll do it myself. That's kind of the way he is. Another interesting storyline in the NBA playoffs in this first round, the 76ers. They got 50 wins, man. They probably didn't have 50 wins the last 4 years combined.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. Would you say this strategy has worked, and are you going to see other teams embrace this?
The thing about them, too, is that not only has the process worked, but this is a young team.
Yes.
This is a young team, and I really think I think Joel Embiid has a chance in the next 4 seasons to be the guy that replaces LeBron James in the East as the guy that's on everybody's lips.
Yeah.
I think he's that good. And I think right now he is still doing this off physical talent. He doesn't have any savvy. He still doesn't really know what he's doing. What was this? This might have been his first really full season in the NBA.
It is.
I mean, so this kid, man,
and he's banged up right now. I hope he can stay healthy. I hope he gets past all this stuff.
It would be a
shame. Be
generational. You don't want to put it up there with something like Len Bias or something, because obviously that's a whole different situation. But you think about the Greg Odens of the world, right? And you just Oden will always be a punchline in the NBA, and I mean most of that's probably not his fault. The guy was hurt.
Yeah, and if you blow your knees up, what are you supposed to do?
That is the one thing about basketball. You've got these really, really large guys playing on a really, really hard surface, and most of them are thin, and they have long legs, and there's a lot of torque getting put on those knees and backs. And so when you do have an injury like that, sort of like with Kyrie Irving, I mean, you wonder if that's ever going to really be okay again. I mean, even at 26 years old.
Well, Kyrie has been dealing with those knees since he was a freshman at Duke. I mean, he tore his ACL his freshman year at Duke.
Yeah.
And it's been an off again, on again, off again deal with his knees. And
look at a guy
it is reasonable to wonder whether or not the term damaged goods applies to Kyrie at all.
Well, you look at a guy like Isaiah Thomas. I mean, this time last year, he was in the MVP discussion. I mean, injuries, he may be done. Done.
I think somebody said he had the same injury Bo Jackson did. And we saw how that turned out for Bo.
Yeah. But no, back to the 76ers. This team, I think we've talked a lot about this really since the show started. Every time we get into the NBA, we end up talking about how things are going to look in 2 seasons and 3 seasons. This team is in prime position to be the kings of the East when LeBron moves on, whether it's this year or when he retires or whatever the case may be. But the 76ers are not going anywhere.
Yeah. The other one, maybe the most pressure on anybody in the playoffs, in my opinion, would be the Houston Rockets. And more specifically on Chris Paul. And BG, I'll throw this one at you. Since 2000, every team in the West has made a conference final, except for the New Orleans franchise, Hornets/Pelicans, and the LA Clippers.
Wow.
What 2 things do those teams have in common? They're both franchises that Chris Paul has played for.
Good point.
And Chris Paul's never been out of the second round. I think it was 05, maybe 05 or 06 when he was with New Orleans.
And this year he has the 1 seed.
Yep, I want to say they took San Antonio to a Game 7, maybe.
Yeah.
And outside of that, he's really never sniffed a conference finals. And now he's on a team with another alpha male.
A dominant team.
They've got the 1 seed. Golden State is going to have to come through Houston to make a 4th straight final. So to me, all the pressure is on Chris Paul and the Rockets right now.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I'm taking that storyline that you're throwing out there, and then I'm coupling it with if the Grizzlies manage to pull that game off tonight, and Chris Paul and his Rockets draw the Thunder in the first round.
That's a
steep
scary
climb right there.
That's a scary 8 seed. But finally, I think another interesting thing about the NBA playoffs, and Adam Silver, you mentioned him a minute ago. He's got to be thrilled with this. The amount of young talent that's starting to emerge in the NBA,
absolutely.
more specifically the teams that are making these playoff runs. You've got the Sixers. You've got the Bucks, who they underachieved a little this year, but Antetokounmpo is on the verge of becoming a superstar. The Utah Jazz, they lose Gordon Hayward. They trade Rodney Hood.
Turns out they didn't lose that much in Gordon Hayward this season.
Turns out they're still really good. Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons, they should split the Rookie of the Year down the middle. Each of them get 50% of it because Mitchell has done an amazing job. But you get the young talent on the Jazz with he and Rudy Gobert. Of course, the Pelicans trying to get back in the playoffs. They were in a few years ago. And then the Nuggets and T-Wolves. T-Wolves trying to end the longest playoff drought in the NBA. I think it's been 18 years or something like that.
Since Garnett was there.
It's been a long time for the T-Wolves. But both of those teams on the verge of getting in. So the young talent.
Well, with the Jazz, I'm reminded a little bit about the conversation we had about Villanova last week. Just, in basketball, I mean, sometimes it's not all about talent. Sometimes it's about chemistry and guys playing well together.
Yeah.
And you certainly have to have that in the NBA because we've seen really good teams that took a long time to get their chemistry going. And, maybe they're just getting the most out of the guys they do have.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm with you. And all of these storylines are great. And the other thing about all this young talent, and a lot of our listeners are probably not going to remember this, but man, 15 years ago, this league's reputation was terrible. When you saw you saw an NBA comment on a message board, within 2 or 3 comments, someone would use the word thug. And I have my own feelings about that word, and we're not going to get into it, but you don't ever hear that anymore. Man, these guys, every one of these young players, what they're known for is basketball.
Yeah.
You can't say that in the NFL. I mean, the NBA is squeaky clean. And I'm telling you, that they are in a position to really grow this brand in the next 10 years. I mean, I think the NBA is going to absolutely take off, and I've said it 1,000 times. The only thing standing in their way is just a little bit more parity, but you know what? We might have more than we think. We'll see how these playoffs play out. I think this is a big playoff. I think it would be a real shame for it to end up being the Cavs and the Warriors.
I would say just the Cavs walking through the East and Warriors coming through, beating the Rockets in 5. I mean, I don't really...
It would be a real shame if that happens, and I still think there's a good chance of that. But yeah. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more of a shakeup. But if it doesn't happen this year, TanMan, it is going to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen. The NBA is in great hands in the future, but in the present, it's also in pretty good hands, I guess you'd say. You got James Harden and LeBron James competing for an MVP award right now. BG, what's your gut tell you? Who's the most valuable player of the 2017-18 NBA season?
How do you define MVP? I mean, we always have this conversation when the national guys have this conversation.
To me,
are we taking it at face value?
Well, to me, I look at MVP as, in a literal sense, the most valuable player. If you want to be truthful about it, Michael Jordan should have won like 12 MVPs in a row.
Exactly, and everybody knew it.
Everybody knew it, but there was Jordan fatigue. And so they gave it to Barkley. And they gave it to David Robinson. They gave it to different people at times. Karl Malone got one. They gave it and spread it out. I think they've done the same thing, to be honest with you, with LeBron James. I think there's LeBron.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're defining it that way, then there is no argument. Without LeBron, that team is non-existent.
That team, to me, you watch the Cavs, and it's almost like LeBron toys his way through the season. And I don't want to say takes plays off, but he lets his team do certain things, and he sits back, and then when it's time to put the gas pedal down, like you're seeing right now, he cranks it up.
He turns into a different thing.
And for all of the struggles that they went through, and for all the love that James Harden is getting, Harden leading the league in scoring with LeBron's third. Harden averaging 5.5 assists a game. LeBron's averaging almost 9. Harden's averaging almost 9. LeBron's averaging a little over 9. LeBron's averaging almost 9 rebounds. He's got career highs in field goal percentage. His third best 3-point shooting percentage season of his career. By the way, shooting at a higher percentage than James Harden.
Let me throw some other names out. See what you think.
Okay.
So you can definitely make the argument for Steph. Okay. That team is not the same without him.
I think the problem that Curry is going to run into is he and Kevin Durant are always going to cancel themselves out. Kind of like Heisman trophies.
Right.
Where you see quarterbacks and running backs on the same team. They usually wind up canceling each other out. I think you're going to see that a lot in Golden State, unless one of them just goes ballistic one year.
Well, but
for the most part,
in their latest
Durant,
stretch without him, they've gone 4-5. They went 73-5 or whatever without KD. I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, I think he's the straw that stirs the drink in Golden State.
Is, and that's what I'm saying.
But no, and I also believe that Golden State has fallen into that trap that Cleveland does every year, where they're to the point now, and I've said this before, they don't care which seed they are. They knew a month ago that they weren't going to catch Houston for that 1 seed, and so they've been trying to get to the end of the season.
All right, so another name, Anthony Davis. When Boogie Cousins went down, we both thought that team was done. Man, they aren't done. They're not going to win anything significant, but Anthony Davis put that team on his shoulders. They went on a 10-game win streak without Cousins. I mean,
it kind of makes you wonder whether, it almost makes you wonder whether or not.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
Whether or not they would be better off. I mean, I can't even make myself say
it.
Moving Cousins, it doesn't even sound right to say, but moving on from Cousins and letting Anthony Davis be the superstar focal point of a team that he should be.
Now, if this were a second half of the season award, I'm going Damian Lillard. Because he is white hot in Portland right now. This team won 13 straight games at one point, and he has single-handedly moved a team that really nobody was talking about before the season started into a 3 seed.
No. I tell you, the other guy, and I said it a few minutes ago, Russell Westbrook is almost going to average a triple-double again.
And no one's talking about it.
He's not even getting brought up in a conversation.
Well, I didn't. I gave you my top 5, and he wasn't one of them.
Westbrook isn't even in the conversation. Those are all great names, and as the principle of the matter, then yes, I could see Anthony Davis winning it, and I could see Lillard gets the love, but really it's a 2-horse race. So LeBron,
sure.
LeBron or James Harden, who you got?
I think Harden gets the poll this year. I think he gets the nod. I think a lot of people feel like he didn't get it last year when he should have, and he's had arguably a better season, and his team has definitely had a better season.
And that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I think Harden's going to get it on the back of the success of the team, as opposed to LeBron and all the struggles they had and plodding through the season. And
I'm okay with that.
And I'm fine with that. If that's the definition of MVP,
you and I gave that team. We had a lot of questions about the Rockets going into the season. They've answered all those questions.
Wasn't Harden your MVP pick to start the year?
He was.
I couldn't remember if it was him or Kawhi.
Yeah, I went with the beard.
Yeah,
mostly because of the beard.
I don't remember who I went with. I might have gone with Kawhi.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't remember who you went with either, but I think I would remember it if you said it.
I don't know.
We'll figure it out and tell everybody last week.
It's not that big a deal.
It'll be a big deal if I was right.
I'll say I went with James Harden too.
All right, so we had on the slate to talk about big surprises and big disappointments. Now, I interpreted that as being players. Did you mean teams?
Players, teams.
Okay, so give me your take because I've been talking a lot.
I'm
tired.
This will probably spill into hour 2, but that's all right. My biggest surprise in the West, I said it a few minutes ago, it's Utah. To lose what they lost and to still find themselves in a position to be a 3 seed potentially in the West with Houston and Golden State and all the way down the line. One of these things is not like the other. It's the Utah Jazz. So to me, they're the biggest surprise.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think most people, if you just asked them on the street, how are the Jazz doing this year, they'd be like, oh, I think they're terrible.
On the East side, you've got a surprise because if you go back and look at what ESPN's projected win totals were for each team before the year, in the West, it was they kind of got it for most all the teams within a few games. In the East, it was a little more different. They had the Sixers at 33 wins, so they've obviously well outpaced that. They had the Raptors at 43, They've well outpaced 43. But to me, the big one, and maybe I'm a homer, is the Indiana Pacers. They traded Paul George to start the year, traded him last summer, and everybody thought that was the end of that. Oladipo.
They've been better without him.
Yeah, Oladipo was in Orlando. He showed some promise, but this is just kind of, He goes to Oklahoma City. He's there during Westbrook's triple-double season. Really takes a back seat. He comes to Indiana. He and Sabonis. Oladipo, he's averaging a career-high 23 points a game. His three-point percentage, field goal percentage, free throws, rebounds, assists, they're all up. They're all career highs this year. Sabonis, same thing. His field goal percentage is up 11 points. His rebounds per game is up 4 rebounds a game. And they add Thaddeus Young and they add Corey Joseph, some nice ancillary parts. So to me, the Pacers are the biggest surprise. They're going, they finished 5th. They're going to give the Cavs a tough fight. Disappointment-wise, I got to go to the Thunder, man. I've got to go to the Thunder.
Well, we just said if they lose tonight, they're the 8th seed.
I got to go with them. They added Paul George and Carmelo.
Even if they end up as the 4th seed tonight, the fact that they could have ended up the 8th seed with one more loss,
Carmelo
should not be in that position.
No. Too much talent on this team. Carmelo's numbers, they are down across the board. He's averaging a career low 16 points a game. Same thing with Paul George. His numbers, his percentages across the board have dipped down, and some of that's factored into, I don't know, what came first, the chicken or the egg. Russ, like we said, is going back into triple-double mode. Is he back in triple-double mode because these other two guys aren't carrying their weight, or are these guys' numbers down because of Russ going back to me mode?
Right. It's hard to say. Yeah. My surprise, I went with players.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of time. What we'll do, we'll finish this segment up, and then we'll start segment 2 with the Hornets.
That sounds good.
My surprise player is Fred VanVleet. This is a guy who was basically a third-string point guard behind Kyle Lowry and DeLon Wright last year for the Raptors. He has been. There's no question in the world. I mean, if you're giving a sixth man, a guy off the bench award, he's it. He's it. He has driven that team's offense almost as much as Lowry. They're a 1 seed in the East. Nobody picked the Raptors to be the 1 seed.
No, I mean, ESPN, we just said it. ESPN had them at 43 wins, so barely above 500. And
it's not just the fact that the team's winning. He's a great shooter. He's a tough defender. And he gives up size and skill to basically every guy he goes up against. Mm-hmm. He's not a big guy. I just love his scrappy style. And I'm not going to get into this because we don't have time, but read it on him and his background. He came from a very bad situation and has ended up in a really good situation. And my disappointment of the year is Isaiah Thomas. I mean, I knew he wasn't going to have the year a lot of people thought he was going to have in Boston, but the fact that he only played in 15 games before he mouthed off about the coach, about Kyrie, about everything, they loaded him up and just punted him basically on 4th down across the country. And he gets to Los Angeles, and you thought it looked like he was getting his wheels out from under him. Then he's done for hip surgery. And I'm not going to be surprised, TanMan, if we don't see him on another NBA roster. I mean, he may be done. He's going to be 30 years old when next season starts.
Yeah. Isaiah Thomas, it's fair to wonder whether or not the Isaiah Thomas you got last year in Boston was as good as it's ever going to get. I mean,
we said that. Well, I mean, and I think a lot of people said that, but I don't think anybody thought this was what we were going to get.
Well, I mean, let's face it, he was in Phoenix. I think he was in Sacramento. Not exactly great player development hubs of the NBA.
Right.
But he is a guy who's been bounced around a little bit. Maybe he caught lightning in a bottle. Maybe he's not really even...
When you're the size he is, and you're having the health problems he's had, man, the league is an uphill battle. And like you said, maybe he found the perfect situation in Boston.
I think so.
It may not be that even the coaching staff in Boston can explain to you exactly what it is. Basketball is a funny game that way.
I don't think he'll ever get his money like he thought he would.
I don't think he's going to get any money. I think there's a 40% chance he's going to retire.
Wow, I
mean, think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me to my core. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me to the core. No. right, guys, that's hour one. Hour two coming up. We'll finish up the NBA with the Hornets, hit a little baseball, and our new thumbs up or thumbs down series.
I'm giving that show thumbs down.
Don't steal it.
It's probably going to be terrible.